Chamber will come to order. We have the introduction of some guests, and then I'll turn the gavel over to the Lieutenant Governor to call the joint convention together. Well, first of all, welcome, especially to the members of the Judiciary that are with us today. We won't be introducing all of you, but we extend a hearty welcome to all of you and appreciate your service to our state. First, I'll introduce the leadership of the Indiana Senate. President pro tempore David Long. Senator Long. The Majority Floor Leader present with us for this one, Senator Brant Hirschman. Senator Hirschman. The Majority Caucus Chair, Jim Merritt. Senator Merritt. The Senate Minority Floor Leader, Tim Lannon. Senator Lannon. The Assistant Minority Floor Leader, Senator Gene Breaux. And the Minority Caucus Chair, Senator Jim Arnold. Senator Arnold. Leadership of the Indiana House, the Majority Floor Leader, Bill Friend. The Majority Caucus Chair, Kathy Richardson. The Speaker pro tempore, Eric Turner. The House Minority Leader, Scott Pilath. The Minority Floor Leader, Linda Lawson's not with us, but we welcome her as well, and Minority Caucus Chair, Vanessa Summers. In the North Balcony, we have one of our honored guests today, Jan Aikman Dixon, the wife of the Chief Justice. Kyle Dixon, the son of the Chief Justice, and his wife, Chris Dixon. James Rush, the husband of Justice Loretta Rush. The Honorable Greg Zeller, our state's Attorney General. The Auditor Tim Berry. Pardon me, Tim, the Honorable Tim Berry, Auditor of State. The Honorable Glenda Ritz, the Superintendent of Public Instruction. We're joined by several former justices of the Supreme Court. We have with us the Honorable Roger DeBruler. The Honorable Myra Selby. The Honorable Frank Sullivan, Jr. And the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Randall Shepard. Mr. Chief Justice, this will be the first of these states of the judiciary that I've not heard you give during my lengthy career here. At this time, would the Chief Justice, the legislative escorts, and the judges of the Indiana Appellate and Tax Court please come forward? And you may greet them with applause if you care. Before I turn the gavel over to the Lieutenant Governor, late for his first prom dance, I'll also introduce Governor Mike Pence. Governor Pence. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Lieutenant Governor for the state of Indiana, Sue Ellspermann.
Members of the Joint Assembly, pursuant to Section 3 of Article 7 of the Constitution of the State of Indiana, this joint session of the two houses of the Indiana General Assembly is now convened for the purpose of hearing a message from the Chief Justice of Indiana. It is my privilege to present to you the distinguished Chief Justice of Indiana, the Honorable Brent Dixon.
Governor Pence, Lieutenant Governor Ellspermann, members of the General Assembly. What a profound honor it is for me to appear before you, the men and women of the Indiana General Assembly, in these historic chambers. Just being in this State House continues to inspire me, despite walking the halls of this building for over 27 years now. This building constantly reminds me, as I'm sure it does you, of the greatness of our state and its people and the privilege and responsibility of public service. As you know, the Indiana Supreme Court has just been through a massive change. During the past year, both former Chief Justice Randy Shepard and Justice Frank Sullivan retired from the court, as did Justice Ted Bohm just about 2 years earlier. And so, after more than 10 years of no change on the 5-member court, we now have not only a new Chief Justice, but also a 60% turnover with the appointments of Justices Steve David, Mark Massa, and Loretta Rush. Despite the change of faces, however, we intend that the new court will be a continuance and even an enhancement of the things admired in the old one. I'm here today because the Indiana Constitution directs that I report to you on the condition of the courts. In thinking about today's remarks, I couldn't help noting that this condition of the courts is so much a product of your efforts, through the years, and just how instrumental you have been in helping create the high-quality judiciary in which we all take such pride. The court has a rich and vibrant connection with the legislature. From the Indiana statutes that often form the bedrock of our many appellate opinions, but to the many legislative commissions that have included the judiciary as members, to the array of special responsibilities and programs that you have assigned to the court and its agencies, and to your support and funding for our operations. When I was appointed to the Indiana Supreme Court in 1986, it was a very different place than it is now. Our workload consisted of few civil cases, but primarily involved direct review of criminal cases. In fact, 93% of our time was consumed with criminal cases. Thanks to the General Assembly adopting and the people of Indiana ratifying 2 constitutional amendments adjusting the nature of our court's jurisdiction, one in 1988 and another in 2000, the Indiana Supreme Court has since been able to review seriously and oversee Indiana law in all kinds of cases, civil and criminal, large and small. In fact, last year, 37% of our written opinions were criminal cases, and they were a wide variety, ranging from counterfeiting, domestic violence, misdemeanor criminal trespass, operating a vehicle while intoxicated, to serious ones such as rape and murder where the death penalty was at stake. In other non-criminal cases, the court was able now to tackle issues such as child support, family law, tax law, constitutional law, employment law, contract law, environmental law, evidence law, municipal government law, even how Indiana courts should address disputes between religious organizations. The access of everyday Hoosiers to their Supreme Court for such a wide assortment of cases would have been impossible 25 years ago. The judiciary is also grateful to the General Assembly for the many important efforts and functions in which we have partnered together. Among them, the creation and sustenance of the Family Court Project, the Mortgage Foreclosure Program, which also involved Lieutenant Governor's Office, the court-appointed Special Advocate Program, the Public Defender Commission, Indiana's Conference on Legal Education Opportunity, the Civil Legal Aid Fund Program, to name just a few. Indiana citizens are indeed fortunate to have our deep tradition of teamwork in government. It's really remarkable that our two branches, each independent and co-equal, have such a strong heritage of working together. And on the subject of cooperation, I'm very happy to have served on your Criminal Code Evaluation Commission this summer, and I greatly admire its focus on evidence-based practices that can make our criminal justice system more effective in promoting public safety, reducing repeat criminal activity, enabling offender reformation, and at the same time reducing substantially the costs of incarceration. I support the resulting legislation, House Bill 1006, including its reassignment of salaries for chief and assistant chief probation officers from the counties to the state. While working together on mutual projects, our two branches each respect each other's essential function. You determine public policy and make the laws, and we follow and apply your laws, whether we like them or not. And if we disagree with the way, if you disagree with the way we interpret a statute you've written, you amend it as you wish. That's the Indiana way. We've seen some good recent examples of this in the past year or so. In one case during the past few months, we rejected a defendant's claim that it was bad public policy to convict a passenger in a motor vehicle for public intoxication. We held that changes in the criminal law must come from the legislature, not the courts. So you promptly did just that. You changed the law. And you revised the statute defining public intoxication to better fit the various issues that were at stake and presented. And then in another case, we decided that an underground aquifer was a watercourse subject to municipal regulation under the Indiana Home Rule Act. But you felt that Indiana law should be otherwise. And you enacted a new statutory provision declaring that henceforth, watercourse does not include an underground aquifer. And in one other case, after our opinion was issued and we noted that statutory defenses to crimes are, quote, in the hands of the legislature, unquote, you responded by revising the statute that deals with a citizen's right to use force against intruders. These real examples vividly demonstrate to Indiana students and Indiana citizens the principle of separation of powers, and you show it in action. My task today is to report to you on the work of Indiana's courts. Here are some brief statistics. During the last decade, we have seen almost 2 million new criminal and civil cases filed each year in Indiana's trial courts. In appeals from those trial court judgments, our intermediate appellate courts, the Court of Appeals and the Tax Court, decide appeals in about 2,400 cases per year. And the Indiana Supreme Court is asked to review about 40% of those decisions. Between these and other cases presented to us, the Supreme Court received and considered last year 1,100 cases, and we issued 90 full written decisions. And all this judicial work was accomplished by 315 trial judges, 92 full-time magistrates, 63 full-time and part-time commissioners and referees, 9 small claims judges, 70 city and town court judges, and 21 appellate judges, and their staffs at the county and the state level. And we must acknowledge that the crucial importance of hundreds of supportive Indiana judicial families behind each judicial officer. Deciding cases may be the principal task of judges, but the men and women of the judicial branch are also deeply engaged in a variety of related programs and activities. I'd like to point out just a few examples of what's being accomplished. In child abuse and neglect cases, under our program for court-appointed special advocates, often called CASA volunteers, over 3,000 people serve as trained volunteers on behalf of children involved. Last year, these volunteers served over 18,000 children in 73 of Indiana's 92 counties. Another example, since 1981, pursuant to statute, our Indiana Judicial Center has been performing its assigned oversight and management of probation, including setting probation officer standards and doing training and certification. During the past year, the Judicial Center offered training programs that reached over 1,400 probation officers, and it conducted testing in which 81 new probation officers passed and were certified. In addition, we are working to develop, as you directed last year, a schedule of progressive probation incentives and violation sanctions, which we all believe will increase public safety while reducing prison populations. Trial judges from across the state are also implementing special problem-solving courts and other innovative programs and techniques to improve access to our courts, to enhance the quality of justice achieved, and to help people throughout our state solve difficult problems and to regain positive control over their lives. We now have 54 certified problem-solving courts, with 12 new ones expected in 2013. And those include veterans courts, drug courts, reentry courts, a mental health court, one for family dependency and children in need of services. The march goes on. Indiana's problem-solving courts became the center of national attention in November, when our own John Surbeck of the Allen Superior Court in Fort Wayne was selected from over 40,000 judges throughout the United States to receive the William Rehnquist Award for Judicial Excellence. John Surbeck, who was identified and we are pointing to, received that honor at the hand of Chief Justice John Roberts in the United States Supreme Court. And he was the first to say that it represented an honor that he shares with all of Indiana's trial court judges, and we agree. Thank you, John, very much. One of the growing challenges before us is the need to enable full access to the courts for people with limited English proficiency. Significant inroads have been accomplished by the Court's Commission on Race and Gender Fairness and its program for training and certifying almost 100 court interpreters statewide. In addition, we provide Language Line, a telephonic interpreter service to all Indiana courts, but much more is needed. People with limited English language proficiency also need help in court-related functions that happen outside the courtroom. In charge of all these issues for the court is Justice Robert Rucker. Your Indiana Judiciary this year has also completed a revision of Indiana's parenting time guidelines, again based on a child-centered approach, to help courts and parents deal with disrupted families. These guidelines are largely the result of enormous efforts by our family law judges and practicing lawyers with very real, everyday experience in this area. We're also very proud of the growing impact of our Conference on Legal Education Opportunity, which you may know as CLEO. Thus far, this program has made it possible for over 450 disadvantaged students to become Indiana CLEO Fellows as they work to complete law school and to become practicing attorneys. A bonus for our state is that the legal profession is becoming more and more diverse as a result. One of the Supreme Court's specific constitutional responsibility is the admission and discipline of lawyers. During the past year, there were 692 people admitted to practice law in our state, and bringing the total number of active Indiana lawyers to 18,228. Lawyers are vital components of our judicial system, and the Indiana Bar is an exceptional body of honorable and dedicated attorneys. Of particular note, I want to publicly commend the exemplary efforts this past year of these lawyers to further enhance attorney professionalism and civility. In addition to several special legal education programs on civility that have been sponsored by various bar associations, you should know that the Indiana Trial Lawyers Association and the Defense Trial Council of Indiana, the organizations for lawyers representing traditional courtroom rivals, the plaintiffs and the defendants, they came together this past year for a joint conference on civility. And at the annual Indiana State Bar meeting each year, these two groups present civility awards to a lawyer from the opposing group. What great examples to show that Indiana lawyers don't fit the negative stereotype so often portrayed. Beyond deciding appeals and admission and discipline of lawyers and other responsibilities, one of the Supreme Court's significant constitutional responsibilities is, quote, supervision of the exercise of jurisdiction by other courts of this state, unquote. As part of our efforts to fulfill this obligation, the Supreme Court has for the past 12 years been working hard to identify and secure the best possible technology so that all Indiana courts can do their work more accurately, more efficiently, more promptly, and more economically. After extensive research, investigation, review, and an open public procurement process, we selected and entered into a contract with a major national technology company, one we found best equipped to serve Indiana's judicial system and to do so at the most reasonable cost. Then we worked to tailor their project, the Odyssey case management system, to serve the various unique needs of Indiana courts. The results have been very gratifying. Our Odyssey system is now being used to process over 40% of the workload in Indiana's trial courts, and we're working hard to meet the demands from counties wishing to come aboard. In fact, Odyssey installation was successfully completed this past weekend in the Orange County Circuit and Superior Courts. And next up are the St. Joseph County Criminal Courts, and then Hancock County Courts, and after that the Marion County Civil Courts will receive Odyssey training. This will bring the portion of Indiana's caseload being handled by the Odyssey system to over 46%. Once we complete these installations, there are over 20 other counties waiting in line, anxious to receive and use Odyssey. All this demand is quite understandable. We provide Odyssey system to counties that want it, and we maintain it, all at no charge to the counties. And the taxpayers in Odyssey counties no longer have to pay license and maintenance fees to private vendors for separate case management systems of their own. In addition to its accomplishments with Odyssey, our technology team and our private sector partners from an array of Indiana firms have also devised about 20 innovations permitting Indiana courts to communicate electronically not only with each other, but also with various executive branch and other governmental agencies, including the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the Indiana State Police and local prosecutors and local law enforcement, the Department of Health, the Department of Child Services, the Department of Revenue, the Department of Correction, the Department of Homeland Security, the Division of Mental Health, or the Family and Social Services Administration, Division of Mental Health and Addiction, just to name a few. This all produces tremendous advancements in serving Hoosiers. In Odyssey counties, when a judge faces an accused person, the judge can now access a computer and immediately learn if the person is out on bond from another county, or is on probation, or has another case pending, so long as it's in Odyssey County. This information in real time is invaluable to trial judges, to public safety, and to justice itself. And our technology team's related projects now make it possible for police officers to write traffic tickets in minimal time to reduce their exposure to highway dangers, for victims of domestic violence to obtain prompt protective orders immediately enforceable in every Indiana county, for the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to quickly receive accurate notifications of decisions in the county courts, and for all judicial and mental health decisions to be immediately transmitted to the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System for gun purchase background checks, to name just a few illustrations of what's been accomplished. And the bonus is that the Odyssey case management system and all of the associated interagency systems that are being developed are funded almost entirely by user fees, a court filing fee, not from property tax, not from sales tax, not from income tax, and thus there's no burden on the state general fund. Justice Mark Massa is heading this effort for the court. Don't hesitate to contact him if you'd like more information. The court intends to do everything we can to bring our Odyssey system as soon as possible to every county that wants it. But this requires more resources. The court really needs help from the General Assembly this session to upgrade the necessary filing fee revenue stream. And we present this to you as one of our most urgent priorities. Not only will we be focusing on trial court technology, but we also seek to enable our appellate courts to begin using e-filing and paperless processing and storage of appellate documents like most other states are doing. We are also particularly excited about the success and promise of the new Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative, a reform effort that strengthens the juvenile justice system by focusing on a variety of ways to reduce reliance on detention. It emphasizes putting the right kids in detention for the right amount of time. A joint cooperative effort between the Judiciary, the Department of Correction, the Indiana Criminal Justice Institute, and the Department of Child Services, this initiative has already been rolled out in 8 counties, representing about 34% of Indiana's at-risk youth. This is a proven model that really works to improve community safety, to get more kids back on the right track, to reduce school dropout rates, to reduce juvenile detention, and to lower incarceration rates. Justice Steve David is spearheading the court's effort to move forward with this program, and Justice Loretta Rush is exploring the possible formation of a commission on children, which would also involve other branches of government. And finally, I want to tell you about our vision and efforts to meet the growing need for basic legal services for people who can't afford it without burdening taxpayers. We want to encourage and empower Indiana lawyers to more fully realize the vision of their oaths and the code of professional responsibility, which requires that they serve the cause of the defenseless, the oppressed, and those who cannot afford adequate legal assistance. I believe that Indiana lawyers can and will meet this need as innovative ways are found to incentivize and effectively utilize their skills and efforts, and to match lawyers' individual areas of expertise with the unmet legal needs of Hoosiers. I am encouraged by the interest already being expressed by many lawyers and by the organized bar. These are just a few of our accomplishments and our aspirations, and there are many other exciting developments on the horizon. Today's judiciary involves much more than simply ruling on cases. Deeply connected to our communities and invested in shared objectives of fairness, impartiality, justice, compassion, public safety, and human renewal, all with fiscal restraint, the dedicated men and women of the judicial branch join you, the members of the Indiana General Assembly, as we all work to better serve our fellow citizens. Looking forward to what the judicial branch and the General Assembly can accomplish together in the coming year, I close this, my first State of the Judiciary message to the General Assembly. Thank you.
This joint convention is now adjourned.